tuning in to another episode of the Jock and Jill podcast. This is your boy Guru from Cold Coffee TV. Here with your girl Joan Madden, the Gridiron Goddess. We want to get right into it. We're going to talk about the game that ended in a tie last night between the Seattle Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals. Joan, how you feeling this morning, first of all?
Pretty good. I'm dragging a little bit, as I usually am on every Monday morning, having to go to work and things like that. But I was actually up from laughter last night, man. Like, just these reactions off this overtime game last night. Like, from sideline to sideline, your boy passing out off the Arizona player passing out. I mean, the way Doug Bobbin was juking Honey Badger in overtime to get them down there to set up for. It was so much comic relief in this game. So I had actually laughed. You know, some people usually cry themselves to sleep for unfortunate situation, whatever. Man, I laughed myself to sleep. It was hilarious. Man, I'm trying to tell you. I mean, even with Pete Carroll, his jubilation off the guy missing it, and it just went then they turned around. Seattle missed the field goal themselves. So just to see Pete Carroll go real high. And 3 minutes later, and see him go real low. And even Michelle Tafoya had me cracking up behind because, she had her microphone ready to report. Even her reaction had me rolling. I mean, I'll just tell you, man, I'm telling you, sitting here looking back over it again, this is still hysterical. And then your boy, what's his name? Kentazaro, thank you. So it's kind of with him. So he missed his kick first, right? And it was bad. It was at the crib. So he missed his kick first. But then when Seattle's kicker missed, it's kind of he wanted to be happy because, the game ended in a tie. But kind of dang, man, that's my fraternity brother in kicking. So it's look at your boy fasting out. Yo, we still watching this, man. This is hilarious. If you haven't seen it, just go watch these reactions. It is so fun. This is so good to me. But yeah, he couldn't even really laugh all the way, because he missed his kick. It's kind of dang, I could relate. I had a bad night too. It's just been a bad year for kickers, and last night proved it even more.
I just can't believe these bums, man. I just can't believe these guys. These kickers, they get paid just to make field goals, and these are chip shots. And they missed both of them. Both of them missed.
And aren't these Pro Bowl kickers too?
These guys are considered to be some of the best in the NFL at their position. And they're out there missing chip shots.
That's hilarious, man. Richard Sherman's reaction was pretty darn funny too. I'm telling you, it was just hilarious. It's so much good stuff from the end of that game. Just all the reactions, and then what's crazy too? Okay, so the game ends in a tie. It's for the division, and it's a 6-6 tie. Nobody had a Hall of Fame game last night. Nobody had a career game. Well, the defenses did obviously, but nobody built up any stats well, you can't even have any type of moral victories. Well, at least I had a touchdown. You can't even have that. This was atrocious. Good defensive battle, but man, the reactions were priceless off of this. Hey, good stuff. I appreciate this last night. Even though the score says 6-6, I really appreciate just all the other hilarious sidebars because this game went to overtime and ended in a tie.
A real big waste of time for both teams, unfortunately. You got these guys went out there and played, 48 minutes? With overtime, an additional 12 minutes.
No, 15. All quarters of 15, and they played 75 minutes.
75 minutes. Yeah, these guys went out there and played 75 minutes to not add nothing to the record. To go right home and say that we ended in a tie. There was no best man today.
Hilarious. And of course that was a NFC West battle, but at least both of them did get a favor from an earlier game on yesterday morning in London, where the New York Giants faced off against the LA Rams, and the LA Rams were considered the home team in that game, but again it was in London. So they did get a favor courtesy of the New York Giants in their division because they beat the Rams. So Guru, I think you picked the Rams on that game as well. What was it? What do you feel about the game? What are your thoughts on that game? What could the Rams have done differently in order to secure a victory?
First of all, they could have probably told Case Keenum to stay home.
All the way in the United States?
All the way in the United States. So this man went out there and threw 4 interceptions and fumbled the ball twice. I mean, he just was, he was just a big bag of F-up all day. He should have hit the bench after the first 2. Because, every time they got in scoring range, every time they tried to build any little bit of momentum, he just kept finding a way to screw it up. I hope that someone was fortunate enough to start the New York Giants defense yesterday in fantasy football, because they had a field day. Not quite sure they're that good. I feel like Case Keenum wanted to just, gift wrap someone a win. The St. Louis Rams defense played pretty solid, I would say. They only allowed, 17 points. Eli Manning had no touchdowns, so he had no real part in winning this game. The offense of the Giants were all kept to modest numbers. Odell had 49 yards. Cruz had 55. Rashad Jennings had only 25 yards on 10 carries, but he had a touchdown. The touchdown was due in part to a turnover. I would say that Case Keenum definitely gift wrapped this game for the New York Giants. Now they're 3-4. What happened? Now you are third in the division. You went from first to third. It's definitely time for a soul search. Maybe bring in a priest, strap Mr. Case Keenum to the bed, and make sure that he ain't got no spirits controlling him, just even though he's not that good in the first place. More or less, you're not going to get that scrub spirit up out of him. That's about as good as he's going to be anyway. At this point, I think Jared Goff needs to take over.
With Jeff Fisher saying what he said, he's probably trying to just not react, not have like a knee-jerk reaction of, I recall Todd Bowles saying that last week as well. We're still going to roll with Ryan Fitzpatrick, but by the middle of the week he had decided to go with Geno Smith. So Jeff Fisher is probably just trying to not shake his confidence and things like that. He's probably just trying to say the safe things of, we're just going to evaluate his performance once we see film and things like that. And I imagine that he will change his mind. Now, what may help Case Keenum buy some time is the Rams are going into this loss with a bye week. So he's really going to have to do some work in the bye week. And, most players go home and visit families and things like that. Go to their old college teams, football games and things like that when they're on a bye. But Case Keenum, you need to be in every piece of classroom, watching every piece of film, doing every piece of drill. That's about the only thing that can save your job. And again, additionally, another week. So they're going to have to see a vast improvement, quick, fast, in a hurry, with you all having this bye week, because once you come back to play your next game on the docket, you do play the Panthers. That helps you as well. And it is a home game for you. But again, you're buying some time here, so you're going to have to do something. Otherwise, it is time to pass the sticks. I definitely think that they should go ahead and go with Goff by now, but I'm just saying, Case Keenum, this is something that could benefit you. You do have a little bit more time. But you did draft Goff. That was like a first pick. Like, seriously, why is he still just sitting there when Case Keenum has proved to you for several weeks that he probably is not the quarterback for you? This stemmed back from last season, that he's shown you that he probably really is not the quarterback for you. The defense has been what's bailed out the Rams more frequently than not. So it's definitely time to give Goff a chance, in my opinion. But Keenum, that is the one thing that is helping you, the couple of things that's helping you, rather. You do have a little bit of time because it is a bye week, and you are playing the Panthers when you come out of the bye week, and it'll be a home game. But sidebar on this game, Odell Beckham got fined again. So I guess now that you thought because you was in London, since you ain't have to pay in dollars, but guess what? You got to pay in pounds. I'm just saying, like, you still getting fined domestically and internationally. Come on, Odell, where's the discipline? I know you guys won the game. I know Eli's like, it's okay if he wins. It's not as annoying. But at some point in time, like, it is starting to really, and I've defended you, but at some point in time, it was kind of like, look, dude, the light bulb's got to turn on and you got to chill. Now, of course, Glover Quinn got fined as well. They got fined the same amount on the same play for the unsportsmanlike conduct. But at the end of the day, hopefully you left that in London, Odell, and you guys will bounce back and get some discipline. Hey, you won, man. Ain't nobody got time for that. You winning games, so chill out, man. Plus, you got a bunch of other stuff to worry about, like being in third place in the division right now. And actually, Dallas and Philly, they're playing for first place next week. So you need to focus more on that. And then the Redskins, they were on a 4-game winning streak before they lost. So look, that's the kind of stuff you need to be worried about, not getting fined and getting all these penalties and things of that nature. So get back on track, Odell, and worry about the NFC East. All right. Now moving on to the AFC North, the divisional game. The previously 0-6 Cleveland Browns were hoping to get their first win of the season against a divisional and familiar foe, which is the Cincinnati Bengals. And of course, Hugh Jackson, this is the former team. Hugh Jackson being the now coach of the Cleveland Browns. He was the former offensive coordinator of the Cincinnati Bengals. He returned to familiar stomping grounds and was hoping again to get the first win of the season. We both picked Cincinnati to win this game. What were your thoughts Guru, what was the reason why Cincinnati was able to be so successful and win this game?
Just too much A.J. Green. That was the story that I said it would be, and that was what it was. A.J. Green went for $169 and a touchdown, and he caught a Hail Mary pass from Andy Dalton. That was a shot from hell. Who would catch that? Guys just sagging all over you and everything like that. This man still came down with it. Jeremy Hill had 160 yards, and Giovanni Bernard had 80 yards. They both had a touchdown. Andy Dalton threw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. But they were playing against a real depleted Cleveland Browns team. A team without their third-string quarterback, who had been the starter the last few weeks, because he went out early in the game, in Cody Kessler. So they were playing with basically a practice squad guy at quarterback and still managed to put up 17 points. I really feel bad for Hugh at this point. Now he's playing with a practice squad quarterback. I mean, this is just getting ridiculous at this point, where he doesn't have any RG3, no Josh McCown, no Cody Kessler. Now you're just playing with some guy named Hogan from the practice squad. Cincinnati Bengals, they don't get much credit for this win. I mean, who wouldn't have won this game today?
I really do hate it for Hugh as well, but he has had a lot of things go against him, and I know he's not one to really pride himself on like excuses or anything like that, but he just really has had a bad hand dealt to him. And I honestly thought that coming into this was the best situation, the best coach, and I hope that the organization and management realizes that too and don't really get rid of him. I still believe that Cleveland can win a game. They might even beat Cincinnati in Cleveland next time. Maybe they'll get some health and some strength back, because the thing is about this game, like Cleveland, there's just a couple of statistical categories where they were severely outnumbered, but the first downs were 22-23, the turnovers were 2-1. The time of possession, Cleveland actually won that by 3.5 minutes. The penalties were 5-3, and it was 35 yards to 30 yards. So, like, they were really close statistically and everything, except for just total yards. Pretty much total yards was the difference, and obviously the score. Just some bad breaks in their favor. I think it honestly started with the RG3 thing, and it just became a domino effect, the avalanche effect, and they just never were able to get control of it. I do still believe that Cleveland can win maybe 1 or 2 games. Again, I think that they possibly can beat Cincinnati home. Now, Guru, I know that you picked Cincinnati to win the division, but I'm still, even though they won today, I'm still a little bit concerned because they are in 3rd place in the division and below 500. Of course, it's still early in the season. They could clearly and definitely bounce back. But again, just statistically, it was kind of a match for Cleveland. Obviously, they won by 2 scores, and the amount of yards is the difference. But Cleveland seemed to have hung in there pretty much in every other statistical category. I hope that they'll be able to shake the fleas off, pun intended, with the dog pound. I hope that they will definitely be able to shake the fleas off and hopefully get things together. But Cleveland fans, hey, at least the Cavs won the NBA title, and hey, the Indians are playing in the World Series, so 2 out of 3 ain't bad, especially if the Indians win it. I mean, I guess you can't have them all. And like the song by Meatloaf, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So hang on to that faith and good luck to Cleveland in the World Series. But yeah, that 0-7 record definitely hurts, and dang, that's tough. Halfway through the season and almost halfway through the season and still not a win yet for these guys. And we really love Hugh Jackson. But moving on to the Washington Redskins versus the Detroit Lions. And, of course, the Redskins were coming in red hot. Burgundy hot, as a matter of fact. The maroon hot from their team colors there. Winning 4 straight and a couple of big division wins in between that run. They went and traveled to Detroit. And I picked Detroit to win this game. But the way it was going, I really thought that the Redskins were going to win it. But they reverted back to classic shoot themselves in the foot. They had everything set up for them. Detroit kept dropping passes. Detroit is very friendly when it comes to defense. They're very generous, especially with tight ends. And I think the ratio so far for the first 6 games, and don't quote me on this, their first few games of the season was like quarterbacks had thrown 17 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, something like that. But leave it to Kirk Cousins to make sure that Detroit held them in check and looked like a solid defense. Again, courtesy of Captain Kirk, to allow Detroit to look a lot better in yesterday's game than they do overall as a season on paper. What do you think was the key for the win for the Lions in this game, Guru? And do you think that the Redskins might be in some trouble going forward?
This was definitely a game that the Redskins should have won. Mm-hmm. Josh Norman did leave the game with a concussion. Matthew Stafford seemed to kind of take advantage of that a little bit. I would say that Norman going out definitely made a difference on how the defense performed and allowed for the Detroit Lions to make a few more plays. I think Matthew Stafford's been playing some elite football. This is looking like a team that's starting to build some confidence. They reel off a couple wins here in a row. And, they're in a division right now with the Packers, who are reeling, even though they won last week, but they're playing terrible. The Vikings, another team who's been great coming out of the bye, they struggled a little bit yesterday. This was a game that the Redskins can chalk it up to, hey, we just didn't do what we were supposed to do at the end of this game. We allowed the team to take a game from us that we had control of. We reeled off 4 straight. This was a check you game. This was a game that brought you back to reality. Like, I definitely think that the Redskins were the better team, but, they let one get away.
I don't know. So, I understand with Josh Norman going out and Matt Stafford being able to have his way. I get that. But to me, their offense was stalled today. This was a great opportunity for you to take advantage of a weak secondary, a weak defense overall, and you didn't do it. I don't think that they should have even had to rely on the defense that much because Josh Norman went out and then Matt Stafford was able to pick them apart. That was Matt Stafford and the Detroit Lions doing a successful job in taking advantage of that opportunity, which is what the Redskins offense should have done. Again, this is a weak Detroit defense. They just gave up 31 to the Rams last week. They've given up 30 in a few instances as well. But you only put up 17, a couple of touchdowns, and a field goal against a defense where you could have easily had a lot of penetration against their run. You could have picked on their secondary and lit up the scoreboard too. This should have been a shootout, which 17-20 is a close game, but it should have been like a 35-38 type game. Not knocking your defense, but I'm saying like you could have easily put up like a 35-38 points up against this defense, and you didn't do it, and you didn't take advantage of the opportunity. You brought it on yourself. Again, you shot yourselves in the foot on this one. Then moving on to your boys, the Oakland Raiders against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Beat them by pretty much doubled the score on them, 33-16. Yeah, Oakland again coming to the East Coast, playing that 1 o'clock game, which typically West Coast teams struggle with. Just in history, not just this season, but just in history, West Coast teams traveling to the East and playing at 1 o'clock, mentally and physically playing at 10, they usually struggle. But Oakland has proved to be successful for the second time this season in doing so, being victorious 33-16 over Jacksonville and still remain atop the AFC West with the 5-2 record. Guru, your thoughts on this game? I know you're very proud of your boys. We both picked Oakland to win this game, and I'm on the radio every Saturday in Jacksonville, and I had to break the news to them. Oakland was going to win this game, and it was going to be primarily because Latavius Murray was back in the lineup, and I was like, I just like Oakland's offense better. And there you have it, Crabtree with a touchdown. With Oakland, he is DirecTV Crabtree. With San Francisco, he was Crabtree with cable. And Murray with a couple of touchdowns as well. So Oakland's offense definitely got the better of Jacksonville's defense, despite the fact with all of the offseason acquisitions they made with Malik Jackson and Tashawn Gibson and Fowler being back in the lineup after missing last season and Ramsey having a good season. It didn't matter. Oakland came in playing pissed after losing to Kansas City last week, and they got the better of a weaker, more vulnerable Jacksonville defense. Your thoughts, Guru? Again, I know you're proud of your boys. And what was the difference maker in this game for Oakland yesterday?
This was another game in which the Oakland offense and Derek Carr showed how elite of an offense they are. I think that Jacksonville's defense is ranked 8th in the league. They're only going to get better because they're all young. You got Miles Jack, you got Dante Fowler, you got Jalen Ramsey, and Derek Carr went out there, was not sacked, did not turn the ball over. The offense had no turnovers. Latavius Murray was welcomed back, obviously, and he showed his impact, how much he means to the offense with 2 touchdowns yesterday. And the aforementioned Jalen Ramsey did a hell of a job guarding Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper couldn't do much until Ramsey was thrown out of the game. But, that's the thing about this Raiders offense. Like, you can contain one side of the field, but what you're going to do to the other side, you pick your poison. Michael Crabtree went nuts and had 96 yards and a touchdown. Just like Derek Carr said, that's the double-edged sword of this offense. Like, you pick your poison. You shut down what side of the field you think is the most important, and we'll just go the other way. The story's consistently been about the Raiders' defense. Well, the Raiders' defense forced 2 turnovers today against Blake Bortles, and they didn't allow a touchdown to the fourth quarter in garbage time. So, this is another game in which the Raiders' defense showed that they can play some solid defense. They didn't allow really any big plays into the fourth quarter. I think that the Raiders' defense was stout yesterday. Hopefully we can start reeling off some more games where the defense has a bigger impact.
Yeah, like you were mentioning with the Raiders, because they did come into this game with ranked 32nd in pass defense. But I think that what they did today to Jacksonville, they should definitely climb up the charts a little bit better, because they only allowed 246 yards on Blake Bortles yesterday. And the average had been 319, so that should skew it a little bit and definitely get them off from being at the bottom as far as pass defense. And what's crazy is the way that Oakland's playing offense. I honestly thought that Jacksonville would be playing offense like this all the way around, not in yesterday's game per se, but just overall throughout the season, with that tandem of Hearns and Robinson, with those two tight end sets that they could create lopsided mismatches, with Chris Ivory that they went and got out in free agency. But they haven't been. They've been pretty flat nonetheless. And Jacksonville may have some questions to address and some issues, possibly at quarterback or just offensive coordinator or something by the end of the season. But nonetheless, once again, just to reiterate, the Oakland Raiders atop the AFC West with a 5-2 record as we head into Week 8 and move closer to the halfway point of the season. But again, Oakland lost last week to Kansas City, and unfortunately, it would have been great for Kansas City to have lost yesterday. Oakland still in first place in that division. But when you lost to a certain team, of course you always want them to lose like the next week to give you momentum back, to kind of give you a little bit more control. But it didn't happen, and the thing is, we kind of knew that Kansas City was going to win because they were playing at home. They were playing in Arrowhead. And even though New Orleans orchestrates a lot of high-octane offense and a lot of points, they can travel with just the offensive unit because the defense doesn't do anything anyway. So I don't even know why they had to load the plane up with the rest of the players. But, yeah, we just kind of knew going into this game with Kansas City going against a New Orleans defense that's basically non-existent, that Kansas City was going to win this game. And Alex Smith, of course, put up big numbers, obviously, as he would against that porous New Orleans defense. And he looked good yesterday. Now, of course, Drew Brees kept his team afloat. It was closer than I anticipated, because I honestly thought that it don't even matter that Drew Brees is throwing up all his offense. I thought he was going to get bottled up because of what type of defense Kansas City has as well. But nonetheless, a 21-27 victory for the Chiefs. Guru, what was the difference maker in this game? Why did the Chiefs win, other than the fact that they played at Arrowhead and New Orleans doesn't have a defense?
Well, this was a game that, the crowd was a factor. The crowd forced multiple penalties on the New Orleans offense in key moments because of the noise. Drew Brees is not really a mistake-prone quarterback. The Saints defense, you might as well just get you a nice little beach chair, put it out there in the middle of the field, and order you a latte and get your feet done, and they just want to make it comfortable for you. Alex Smith went out there and threw 2 TD passes, and, Spencer Ware had 77 yards. Jamal Charles basically could have just sat out the game. He had one carry, but he could have just put his feet up over there on the sidelines because it really didn't even matter anyway that he wasn't there. The Saints defense is just pathetic at this point. They've got names, on the defense who've been good on other teams, but for whatever reason, these guys all compiled together, it's just not working. That may be a sign that the defensive coordinator needs to be fired. This defensive coordinator is the former Raiders coach, Dennis Allen, who was a defensive backs coach for the Atlanta Falcons before he became, a defensive backs coach for the Broncos, which kind of vaulted him into the head coaching position for the Raiders. Now he's a defensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints, and that defense is probably all-time bad. Dennis Allen is the odd man out here. I think that it's time for Sean Payton to do something about that. As Andy Reid stated, Drew Brees and Sean Payton will go down as an all-time great head coach quarterback tandem, but their legacy is being tainted at this point because of how bad the defense is. Like, you would think that they would have been winning some of these games had that defense been able to stop something. They don't stop anything. They let everybody on through. Nobody ain't gotta have no wristbands at the party. Everybody just come on in.
Wow, so Dennis Allen's tenure in New Orleans might come to an end very soon, according to the Guru, and we'll definitely keep our eyes and ears out on that. Now, something that I did not keep my eyes and ears on yesterday because I just automatically thought that Buffalo was going to win, but that game, Miami pulling off an upset, winning 2 straight games, and Jay Ajayi having 2 straight 200 rushing yard games. My goodness, I did not see that coming. I definitely didn't see it coming against Pittsburgh last week, and I definitely didn't see it. Not against Rex Ryan's defense. Are you kidding me? But nonetheless, Miami victorious again with another home win, snapping Buffalo's 4-game winning streak. Of course, McCoy went down in this game as well. He was already coming into the game injured with the hamstring, and it occurred again. Tyrod Taylor had some splashes of some good looks as well. But the underlying factor in this game was Buffalo allowing 28 points and 200 rushing yards. Guru, talk about this game. What happened? What was wrong with Buffalo yesterday?
With no LaShawn McCoy, it killed Buffalo's rushing attack. They weren't as explosive in the running game without LaShawn McCoy, and that forced the Buffalo Bills to not be able to play ball control. One component generally with great defenses is they generally have a great ball control offense on the other side of the field, which will kill the clock. The Buffalo Bills were unable to successfully implement that ball control strategy because LaShawn McCoy was not available. So that caused the defense to be on the field for more possessions, which obviously Ajayi, the guy that you recommended for people for their fantasy lines, hopefully they got him in. He took a lot of carries and ended up with 214 yards. It's looking like, Miami found a gem, in their draft. And now my question is, why didn't Adam Gase, considering that this guy Jay Ajayi had been in Dolphins camp all summer, why didn't Adam Gase already know that this guy was good? Like, what made you go out and get Arian Foster if you already had this guy in there? Like, what were you looking at? How did you overlook how good this dude is? But Miami dominated this game because they were able to run the football, and, ball control usually, allows a defense to be on the field less, which allows for them to be fresher and play better. Sue had 1.5 sacks. Cameron Wake had 1 sack. The defense for the Dolphins played better than they've been playing because they were able to be on the field less. They were fresher. And the running back being able to dominate the game also allowed Ryan Tannehill's numbers to look better. All of those symptoms, are directly correlated to the Dolphins' success in this game. Buffalo, on the other hand, all of those symptoms are directly correlated to them not being able to run the football. So that's what happened.
No doubt. And again, that was Miami winning their second straight win of the season, 2 back-to-back home wins, and a big divisional win over the Buffalo Bills. Now, sticking in the AFC East, the AFC East, we'll give them a little bit of respect this time since Miami won and New England won. We'll talk about that game. And the Jets won. Hello, the Jets snapped their 4-game losing streak yesterday, but it was another episode of As the Quarterback Turns up in New York yesterday. My goodness, Geno Smith starting. And I just really thought, with Geno starting, because I actually picked Baltimore to win this game because initially I didn't know that Geno was starting. I got that news from Guru after I made my pick, and I was like, I have to change it to the Jets. But then I was thinking, I said it, let me stick with it. But I also said, I hope Baltimore loses because they're my divisional rival. So this is one game I'm glad I was wrong about. But what disappoints me is, because I was thinking Geno gonna ball. West Virginia actually looking, it's alma mater, West Virginia. They're actually looking good in college football. So Geno gonna roll with that. He's humbled now. He got momentum. He'll come out and win this game. So even though I'm glad the Jets won, I just hated that it wasn't courtesy of Geno, But maybe Ryan Fitzpatrick was humbled. I mean, he cost them a lot of games coming into yesterday's game with a league high of 11 interceptions and only 6 touchdowns at the time. So maybe he was humbled. I mean, he even had said that, I know the GM lost hope in me. I know the coach lost hope in me. I know the fans lost hope and faith in me. So maybe not taking first team reps in practice, maybe that was humbling and things like that. I don't know. Maybe now he finally gets it. But that was a big win for the Jets yesterday. A big confidence builder for Ryan Fitzpatrick. Now that we're getting closer to November, he already has that thick beard. I can't wait to see how it plays out for No Shave November coming up as well. But we'll definitely see, even if we don't necessarily see Ryan Fitzpatrick on the field, but we're evaluating Geno Smith injury, of course. But I'm sure that we'll see that beard get thicker and thicker again as we get closer to No Shave November. But Guru, what was the big deal about this game? What happened? What went right for the Jets? What went wrong for Baltimore en route to the Jets snapping their 4-game losing streak?
Yeah, this was a real interesting game. I think that Geno did set the tone in this game, though. I think he came out kind of warm, completing passes, simple passes, and he threw that deep ball to Enunwa. The defense even, seemed like they kind of caught some momentum off of that. And, they rode that momentum the rest of the game. So I do think that Geno Smith, even though he wasn't able to get past the first quarter, he went out there and he set the tone. Also, with Matt Forte able to run 30 times for 100 yards, that was a tone setter for ball control. That allowed for the defense to be on the field less, which allowed for them to be fresher. So they played very well against Joe Flacco, didn't allow him to throw any touchdown passes. In fact, Joe Flacco had 2 interceptions. But this was a game I predicted that the New York Jets would win, and there were no surprises here. They won in spite of Ryan Fitzpatrick this time. He came back in the game, and he didn't blow it. That's really what happened. The Ravens have to be asking some questions because this was a team that was 3-1 at one point, and now they're 3-4. Another one of those teams who've just been on a skid. The Jets' 4-game skid came to an end yesterday. Yeah, so now the Ravens are on their own 4-game losing streak at this point, and they got some questions to be asking. They fired Mark Trestman as the offensive coordinator, and the streak has not stopped. Now I'm wondering, what's the next course of action for John Harbaugh at this point?
Interesting. And meanwhile, Justin Forsett won yesterday in Detroit while his former team lost yesterday. So that might have been what the lick reads, Justin Forsett getting up off of that sinking ship that is Baltimore's offense. But yeah, at least they do get Pittsburgh. Well, I'll check Baltimore, who Baltimore plays next week. But in a couple weeks, they do get Pittsburgh, and that could be another week without Ben Roethlisberger. So maybe that might benefit them as well. But nonetheless, 4-game losing streak, as you alluded to, for the Ravens. The Jets victorious in snapping their losing streak. This is another one I didn't see coming. But I'm sure the 1972 Miami Dolphins are glad because their perfect undefeated season remains intact as Minnesota, the last undefeated team of the NFL season as Week 7 started. They were the last ones remaining. They were the last ones standing. Of course, the Eagles were one of the last 3 with Minnesota. It was Minnesota, the Eagles, and the Broncos. Those were the last 3 who were undefeated. So, Philly being fresh off of being undefeated, I'm quite sure they were glad to knock Minnesota out of the undefeated realms as well. And the bonus for them is Minnesota was coming off of a bye. They had extra time to prepare for Philly, and Philly still won the game. It was interesting to me, though, because I really thought, okay, Sam Bradford should be fine because he's practiced against this defense. I mean, he was just with these guys 3 months ago. So I really thought, all right, Sam Bradford's going to go out there, show off. We'll see more offense. Patterson's time is increasing. He'll connect with Rudolph. Of course, Philly has a very stout secondary, very impressive secondary. But again, I just thought, well, Sam Bradford's practice against them advantage Sam Bradford. But lies you tell, Tasha, because you were way off on that one because Bradford didn't do an ounce of much of anything. Barely, in my POP voice, barely. But also what Sam Bradford did prove, though, the point that he did prove is no matter what team he plays for, he cannot play in Philadelphia.
Yeah, you're right about that, Joan. You're right about that. It was a shocker. I mean, you spoke about this before the Vikings went into their bye. They might go into the bye and come back out, with their momentum a little shaken. Mm-hmm. And this seemed to be what happened. They came out a little flat. The defense did still show up because the Eagles only scored 1 offensive touchdown. What I took away from the game was that the Philadelphia Eagles defense is for real, though. They were able to get 6 sacks. This was a game where it was basically coming down to whose defense was going to force whose offense into the most mistakes. Now, Carson Wentz threw 2 interceptions, and Sam Bradford only threw 1. But at the same time, the Eagles defense had more sacks, and they were able to, whenever you have a 3 and out, that's almost like a turnover. Mm-hmm. You 3 and out a team, that's really, they don't count that as turnovers, but that's almost like a turnover. So the Eagles defense was able to force the Vikings into more turnovers. That's really what happened. They did not allow for the Vikings to gain any momentum into garbage time. So that was the story of the game, and the Eagles defense is definitely for real.
And as you mentioned, with Philly's defense being so good and even their special teams, they're just picking up off of what they did last week in Washington against the Redskins. I mean, they had 20 points on the board last week, but only 6 of it was the field goals. They got a touchdown off of a punt return or a kickoff return. The other touchdown came off of a pick six. So, yeah, no surprises there with Philly continuing their dominance in special teams and in defense. Now, moving on to a divisional matchup. Another one here, the Colts, as they took on the Tennessee Titans. And, of course, the last time we saw the Colts before yesterday, they had a heartbreaking, dramatic overtime loss against Houston in Houston. And, of course, that caused a whole bunch of drama with Frank Gore coming to the mic talking about how he didn't sign up for this. He didn't come here for this. Jim Irsay talking crazy about Antonio Cromartie as well. His spouse getting in on it. Chuck Pagano got something to say. Andrew Luck still trying to sit somewhere and defend why he got this contract, which is lies. I mean, it was just endless drama associated with this. But as they say, winning cures everything. So maybe the Colts bought themselves not a bye week on the football field, but a bye week from dramatics, from, again, as the Colts turns in this instance. Maybe they bought them a week from that. We won't get that show on air this week because of the World Series or because of the debate or whatever. We won't see that on air this week, finally, as the Colts snap their losing streak with a huge divisional win over the Titans and putting up 34 points as well. So, Guru, what was the difference maker in this game? Why did Indy win and why did Tennessee lose?
I predicted that the Indianapolis Colts would end their losing streak, and that's precisely what happened. Andrew Luck went out there and he threw up some numbers. You know, T.Y. Hilton and the tight end Jack Doyle, you know, they were able to come through for him for some big plays. And Frank Gore, you know, he was steady. He only had 61 rushing yards, but he was steady. You know, he gave you 60 yards. The defense for the Colts made some plays in this game, though. Robert Mathis picked up a fumble for a touchdown. The defense had an impact on this game for the Colts. The offense for the Titans, you know, they made some plays as well. DeMarco Murray gave you his steady 100 yards and a touchdown, and Mariota still gave you 2 TD passes. But I think that this was a game, whenever you're in a close game, you know, is always coaching. And this is something you've consistently, you know, stated, that Mike Mularkey just isn't fit for this job. They lost this game in a close game. This was a nail-biter game because, I mean, they were tied at one point. They found a way to lose. So I think that Chuck Pagano outmaneuvered Mike Mularkey in this game. You know, Tennessee's talent, you know, suggests that they should have won. Right now they're sitting at 3-4. Tennessee's talent suggests that they should be leading the division right now.
On paper, yep.
They haven't really just flat out lost any game that they didn't have a chance to win. I definitely have some questions about Mike Mularkey being the head coach of this team. I would say that coaching was the biggest factor in why this game was a loss for the Tennessee Titans.
Well, yeah, like you said, I've always been questioning this coaching situation because I felt like, again, I'm very biased about Ken Whisenhunt. That is my boy. He helped my Steelers get a Super Bowl. I just felt like Ken Whisenhunt could do a lot better job as a coach with the personnel they got, with all the stuff that they did in the offseason, going out and getting Jones, Conklin, Murray. If Ken Whisenhunt had that type of personnel, they'd be a lot better than they are. And, again, Mike Mularkey, a.k.a. Mike Murkey. I mean, it's obvious. The writing's on the wall there with the guy's last name being very close to Murkey. You get what you ask for, and that it's there. And the Titans were very murky in yesterday's game and consequently losing. A big game for the San Diego Chargers on the road, coming to the Atlanta Falcons down in, of course, this is the last year down there in that dome before they move to Marietta. I'm sorry, before they move a few blocks over. That's the Braves stadium that's moving to Marietta. My apologies. But, yeah, last season in the dome, so the fans are really, really crunk there. We went to the game earlier this season, the Panthers versus the Falcons down there, and they have this segment called the Doments. Instead of the Moments, they have it called the Doments. And Phillip Rivers was definitely able to achieve a Doment yesterday in that huge overtime win. And it was a come-from-behind win as well, again, on the road. And I love me some Phillip Rivers. I love the guy's moxie and killer instinct. Of course, he went to NC State, the pride of NC State. He's a Wolfpack member. I can't say enough about Phillip Rivers' killer instinct and just never give up attitude that he's had throughout his career. I mean, with everything with LaDainian Tomlinson, I mean, he's won big games in the playoffs against the Colts, and he sent New England home early one year. They've lost everybody and their mama this year: Keenan Allen, Manti Te'o, Danny Woodhead, and the guy just takes a licking and he keeps on ticking. And so I love me some Phillip Rivers. Huge win again for these guys, and it went to overtime, but still, nonetheless, they were able to do so. Very proud of these guys yesterday, and they've gone on to reel off of a couple of consistent wins as well. So, Guru, what were your thoughts on this game yesterday? What happened? Why did the Chargers win, and why did the Falcons lose?
This was a tale of two halves. The first half, the Atlanta Falcons were a high-powered offense that just could not be contained. And even, the defense was playing better. It seemed like in the second half, it was almost like the Chargers and the Falcons changed spirits because, that's who the Chargers have been this season. They've been a team that's been in the lead and lose at the end. And the Falcons have been a team that's been closing games. The San Diego Chargers kind of took over the spirit that the Falcons had in the second half, went out there and dominated this game. Melvin Gordon, I'm starting to feel like this dude is an elite running back. He's been making plays all over the place. 2 rushing touchdowns yesterday and a receiving touchdown. That's critical. That reminds me of LT LaDainian Tomlinson being the type of playmaker he used to be, a guy that you can rely on in the passing game and in the rushing game. That's the playmaker that Melvin Gordon is starting to seem like he's starting to embrace being that type of a playmaker for the San Diego Chargers. The Chargers were scoring. They threw up some points. And the Falcons just, they weren't able to keep throwing up points. They just got to a point where I guess they felt they had control of the game. And I'm not sure if this is a team that plays not to lose, because, some of the coaches in the NFL, they're kind of, like their personality is not really playing to win. They play to get the lead and not lose. That's really the story here. The story is that the Falcons were a different team in the second half, whereas Phillip Rivers went out there gung-ho. Like, man, we are not going down like this. I did predict that the San Diego Chargers would win, so this is what I expected.
Me too, and I couldn't be more proud of Phillip Rivers. And 2 other little nuggets about this game. As I've been talking about Ken Whisenhunt from the previous segment with the Tennessee Titans because they lost, and Ken Whisenhunt used to be the head coach. How about Ken Whisenhunt and that offensive coordinating that he did yesterday, leading San Diego to that victory? And with Atlanta's now lost 2 straight. But this is about the time of year that Atlanta folds. They've started off 5-0 before, not making it to the playoffs. They started 6-0 before, early exits out of the playoffs. So no surprises here that Atlanta's looking the way they've looked these past couple of games. And Atlanta, don't look now, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in your rearview mirror as they traveled to San Francisco yesterday. And they did beat San Francisco by 2 times of the score with the final score of 34-17. Kaepernick with his second start of the season, first start at home, and of course the fans had been cheering for that since that last home game that before yesterday that 49ers had that big loss that they had against Arizona. So the fans have been cheering, we want Cap, we want Cap. And again, another loss for the 49ers, the second loss for them with Cap as the starter, but this was their 6th one of the season. Is that correct? The 6th one of the season. So now they stand with a 1-6 record. Unfortunately, that one win of the season coming week 1. So that seems like an eternity ago as they've reeled off 6 straight losses. So what was the difference maker in the game yesterday for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the San Francisco 49ers? Why did Tampa win and why did the 49ers lose, Guru?
I just believe that the San Francisco 49ers were not the better team. I believe that Tampa coming off the bye, Jameis Winston's playing solid football. He's an elite quarterback. I stand by that statement that I made previously. I believe he's one of the better quarterbacks in the game, and he went out there and he played like it. And he carried the team. 3 TD passes. Mike Evans had 2 of them. Tampa's defense, that's something I've been talking about as well. The talent that's on Tampa Bay's defense is better than they've played. So they went out there and they were able to register 5 sacks and force 3 turnovers. And this is what Colin Kaepernick being at the helm now, mind you. Carlos Hyde in the 49ers offense hasn't been putting up no huge numbers or anything like that, but they've been better than what they were yesterday. This was a game that Tampa won more than the 49ers lost.
No doubt, and I hope that you watched my episode of Your Fantasy Fulfilled on my ESPN, the network channel on YouTube, because I did tell you to go out and start Jacquizz Rodgers, and he gave you a 154-yard performance. So kudos to me, and kudos to you if you listen. And with San Francisco losing, speaking of San Francisco, here's a guy who grew up as a San Francisco fan. That would be Tom Brady. Grew up as a 49ers fan solely because of Joe Montana, and I actually think that he grew up out there as well, but he idolized Joe Montana as a quarterback. And of course, Tom Brady now plays for the Patriots, and the Patriots were victorious yesterday in a 27-16 victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, because the Steelers are my team, I picked the Patriots because I'm a realist, because I knew that without Ben Roethlisberger, that was going to be a tall task for us. And again, I'm a realist, so I knew it was going to be a difficult thing for us to win. However, we had a couple of opportunities to win this game without Ben Roethlisberger, without 7 other starters, and with AB missing some time in the second half. The thing is, we lost by 11. We had a touchdown, another touchdown by Hayward-Bay that was called back. Let's just say, count the touchdown and go for 2. That's 8 points. We also missed the field goal. That's another 3 points. There's our 11 points right there that would have had us tied in this ball game and went to overtime and probably would have won in overtime. Again, that's hypothetical, but what's not hypothetical is, again, we left those at least a minimum of 11 points on the board with that missed field goal and the touchdown that got called back for a penalty. So we had our opportunities. Sans Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown missing time in the second half, and 7 other starters that we missed, including Marcus Gilbert. I'm not one to make excuses, and I'm not one for moral victories, but I'm taking that stuff into strong consideration as to why those were the reasons why we lost the game. I can't even pride New England on so much that they did, more so than what we did to damage ourselves. Gronkowski getting a touchdown, Marcellus Bennett getting yards and stuff, that's no surprise. That's what New England does. We did an excellent job of containing that in the first half. What we didn't do was put pressure on Brady, because Brady picked up 3 first downs off of running. I mean, it wasn't like he picked up 31 yards or anything, but he did enough to get 3 first downs consecutively. The 3 times that he had to run for first downs, he got all 3. We didn't stop him, and those were third down conversions for him, by the way, let me add. So that was an Achilles heel for us, letting Brady get those first downs on us. I'm not even going to give credit to the Gronkowski and Bennett stuff, because that, again, that's New England's identity. We did a really successful job of stopping them in the first half, but I knew that we weren't going to be like, this is a dream come true. I'm like, no way we're going to stop them the whole game. And I was accurate on that. They let Edelman get loose as a result of us containing the tight ends. But again, I don't mind Edelman getting off like that, because he also gave us a fumble. I hate that we didn't stay consistent with stopping the tight ends like we did, but realistically, I kind of felt like we weren't. And I hate that we didn't apply pressure to Brady. Those factors and leaving 11 points on the board were why we lost the game. It really wasn't even so much of what New England did. Landry Jones actually looked pretty decent for the most part. But what I do think about Landry Jones is, with us going into the bye week, I think this was a big game for him. This was a big game for him, a big test for him. And we might come out and beat Baltimore in Baltimore if Landry Jones is successful again, and with the way Baltimore is reeling. I don't want to say super duper all the way proud, but I was, considering what Landry Jones did last year when Roethlisberger was hurt and Michael Vick got us a couple of those wins. I saw a lot of progress in him one season later, and I think that we may be okay if we have to go a couple more games without Ben, and those couple of games would be against Baltimore, in Baltimore, and at home against Dallas. But I think we might be all right. But again, more credit to us losing this game as opposed to New England winning. Guru, what were your thoughts on yesterday's game with the Patriots and the Steelers?
I believe that the Steelers had a valiant effort, as I expected. I expected for them not to lay down and let the Patriots come into Heinz Field and just dominate. Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, they were making plays all over the place. With Ben, this is a totally different game. Landry Jones, you're right, he played solid. He didn't make a lot of mistakes. And Tom was kind of modest today. A modest 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. And 27 points, that's not a lot of points in this day and age, I guess, even though, there was a time when, if a team had 20-something points, you consider that to be a lot. In this day and age, 27 points is not a lot of points. So, I would say the defense even did their job for the most part against Tom Brady and, Gronkowski and all that talent on offense. I think with Ben, you guys would have been able to do more and had a better chance at winning this game. So no surprises here. I did pick New England. I think that, Ben was the X factor in this game.
Definitely. And the other thing that bothers me about this game is, like, had we won, we would have had the same record as New England. And later on down the road, like, if playoff implications would have came for, like, home field and things like that, we would have had the edge in a tiebreaker, of course, if we would have finished both with the same record. But blown opportunities on us, I do expect us to bounce back. People are talking about Mike Tomlin's on the hot seat. Not with being injured. I mean, let's just keep it real. Like, most of the games that Mike Tomlin has lost is because Ben has been injured. And I like the no-nonsense coach from us. And I don't know who else we could go get. Cowher's not coming out of the studio. That's the only other person I can imagine replacing Tomlin again and having success is if we go back and got Bill Cowher. But that's the chances of that happening are definitely slim to none. So folks talking this craziness about Tomlin getting fired, cut it. Like, seriously, we don't fire coaches in Pittsburgh. We don't. And all three of the coaches that we've had in the entire history of the team, the Pittsburgh Steelers history, that is, none of our coaches have gotten fired. We're the only franchise that have never fired a coach, so let's keep that going. And also, all of our coaches we're the only team with all of our coaches have Super Bowl titles as well. So stop it, please. We'll be just fine. We're a resilient team. We always bounce back. We get into those, we get beat up and bruised in the mid-season, but we always go on a run towards the end of the season and usually do well in the postseason, especially if we have to go on the road. All right, so that's going to do it for this installment of the Jock and Jill podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Guru, I know you got a big week ahead with A&T's homecoming coming up, a very busy week for you, especially towards the end of the week. But if people need to reach you last minute, they need to get some things done by you, production-wise, beat-wise, anything of that nature. Tell the good people how they can get a hold of you.
Like us at Cold Coffee TV on Facebook. Follow us at Cold Coffee TV on Twitter. Subscribe to us at Cold Coffee TV or Cold Coffee News on YouTube. Run with us and run from us, baby. You know the motto. Shout out to Raider Nation.
No doubt. And that's for me, your girl Latasha Miles, a.k.a. Joan Madden, the Gridiron Goddess of SheSP the Network. I can be reached on Facebook at Latasha Joan Madden Miles. Again, that's Latasha Joan Madden Miles on Facebook. On Twitter and Instagram at she_SPN. Again, at she_SPN on Twitter and IG. The YouTube channel is SheSP the Network. So definitely go out and subscribe to that, and you'll see a whole bunch of work that we have put in very consistently and very faithfully. We're putting in work here. Again, that's SheSP the Network on the YouTube channel. And my book, When Football Season Turns You Into a Side Chick, The Ultimate Survival Guide for Relationships and Households During Football Season, is available right now on Amazon.com and CreateSpace.com. And as you all should be aware, NBA season kicks off on Tuesday, and we're going to unfold another chapter as well. So be on the lookout for that and stay tuned. We definitely appreciate your love and support. Continue to do so. We are very grateful. And that's going to, again, do it for this installment of the Jock and Jill podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we're out.